Hey guys, welcome back to Young Americans Abroad. My name is Austin.
And my name is Patrick.
And thank you for joining our show.
Yeah, we got AVT and PAT. They talking about young Americans overseas. We got McKinney, Pulisic, Reyna, and Des. Got that red, white, and blue. USA on the crest from England, Germany, from Belgium to Spain. Racking up all the medals on the trophy train. Got one thing on their mind. We're scaling some luck. One day we can say we will win the World Cup.
Well, guys, we're excited to be back today. We have a really interesting topic we want to discuss. So, Pat, do you want to introduce it?
Yeah, Austin. So, right, there's a lot going on, a lot riding for these players, right, for a country. These tournaments coming up, right, the Nations League, the World Cup, the biggest of all, right, and a lot of players, right, kind of vying for their place and spot, for a country and even for a club in the future. So, this exciting episode, Austin, we're covering 5 players, right, that need to make a move here, that need to solidify their place, for a country and then, to further their career.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting time too when you take a look at, the big picture, right, of our player pool right now and just American soccer players playing abroad. We've had a lot of players move overseas the past 2 seasons. A lot of players right now that are in really good spots, right, to prove themselves and are getting good minutes. It's just, there's some players that still could make a move this summer. And like you said, Pat, it's all with that eye towards the upcoming World Cup. It's with the eye towards, future progression, right? And being at bigger clubs in the future, pushing themselves to the limits and really getting in good situations to kind of thrive, right? That's what we want from our players, to thrive and be playing at their best.
That's it. If I had one word for the episode, Austin, thrive. I love it. I love it. I mean, we have so much to get into, and yeah, I mean, the more competitive, right, and the higher quality that we bring in, I mean, this has been a tremendous era, right, in growth, since we started this channel, just the generation that we have now, and even the generations coming through, right, in the future. So this is crucial, right? This will set these players up for many more years to come, right, and hopefully more World Cups. So yeah, I guess, Austin, with the first player, right, we should dive into, and starting with the back, right?
A big one here.
Yeah, big one, right? The goalkeepers. So that's our boy, from PA, right? Zach Steffen. So obviously we know his situation at Man City. He had that contract extended, I think, to 2025, right? He's 27 now too. In this past year, he's only had 9 appearances with Man City. Half of those, I think, 4 being in the FA Cup. Obviously had that rough Liverpool outing, right? Heavily criticized there, which you'll get at a club like Man City, and very limited opportunities, right? It's just concerning, for our, quote unquote number one, right, Berhalter's guy, to really have the lack of playing time he has. Granted, it is under Guardiola. Grant Ederson, right, is a fantastic keeper. That that training, right, that you're getting, that knowledge you're getting is second to none. But at the end of the day, now you need minutes. Now you need playing time, and he's not getting it there, Austin.
Yeah, and it's really been a disappointing season for him, right? We've seen him grow, I would say, at Man City. I think he's refined some of his passing ability, right?
Oh yeah,
he looks a little bit more comfortable when he's handling the ball. I think that's something that's really important. So I do think, 2 years ago when he first, chose to stay at Man City for the full season, I think it was a good choice. I really do. I think now that he's been there 2 years and now that he's really not getting the same level of playing time that I feel like he got in that first season. And I guess we should be fair to him, right? This season he has had some injuries. So that's definitely played a role in that. And I'm sure it's been hard for him to kind of get back into the groove quickly and find a place in the team again. But I just think, yeah, it's time to kind of to prove himself, right? He's honed his abilities, learned from some of the best coaches, best goalkeeper, one of the best goalkeepers in the world, one of the best coaches in the world, right?
oh,
So
yeah.
now it's time to really prove himself. And again, going into a World Cup, I think it's a tough, this summer is going to be a tough decision for him, right? He's really going to have to think about what team is going to be best for him to get minutes consistently. And be in a position where, again, he feels confident going into the World Cup. We feel confident in him, selecting him as our starting goalkeeper. But again, it's up to him to kind of work through that decision, right?
Yeah, it really is up to him and the people around him, right? Close knit, circle there, agents, right, to make sure it's the right decision, because he's at a crossroads. This is a crucial time, a very strange time for all USMNT kind of goalkeepers, right? For the three that we have, you could talk about a lot, right? And obviously Turner, right, going to Arsenal. So it's a very strange time, that we haven't really had from a national team perspective with our goalkeepers. So Steffen I think, kind of shifting right to the teams where, maybe he can make that difference, make that impact coming right away and really get the game time, get that confidence back in that groove to set him up for success in Qatar. So 2 options, right, Austin? One of them, let's see one way. I'm going to start with my preferred choice, maybe a little bit safer in terms of when you hear, guys, my gutsy pick, so stay tuned. I'm starting with Southampton, Austin. So Fraser, Forster there, contract kind of come up right in question. Overall, if you're looking at the holistic view of the season, a lot of questions with the entire team, offloading him, right? And obviously, they have had a really poor season with high goals allowed, pretty atrocious games, not just him, right, but the whole team. But looks like they're staying up in the Prem, right? So that's a team that has always kind of battled, maybe gets closer to the upper top 10, but also kind of more floats in the middle, you could say. They fluctuate pretty rapidly, but always seem to kind of stay in the Premier League. And again, Forster's contract situation, right? He's a little bit older in terms of goalkeeper, into the mid-high 30s. And then obviously, bringing in someone like Steffen, right? Coming from City, I think could get the game time there, right? Get that confidence up and have that ability to really just cement himself as a number 1 here in the Premier League. So that was kind of my first quick take. And then, again, I want to pass it to you, but just throw off my far-fetched take. And again, thinking of the direction, I think you talked me out of it in terms of looking maybe at a team that's getting promoted. But I'm looking at a team now that's in the Premier League that is set for relegation, and that's Sargent's Norwich. Now, that's a gutsy move, right? There's a lot of uncertain parts, especially with the team going down. I would only say the caveat is Norwich goes up and down all the time, right? It's kind of like, I don't know, like an elevator, right? Goes up to the top floor, it's coming down, it's going to go up. Someone's going to call it up, right? So it seems it's a terrible analogy, but I apologize. But no, I just feel like their situation as well is obviously they've given up a terrible amount of goals. Tim Krul, right, and Michael McGovern, very, very poor play. They're also kind of high 30s, right? Players that, if they are looking to really shape up their team, get right back to the Premier League, Steffen, has that quality to get them there. So kind of banking the fact, right, in terms of the chaos of getting relegated, that might be a potential move. It is very far-fetched, I'll admit, but I think I'm leaning more towards Southampton. But I want to get your take, Austin, on where Steffen should go.
Yeah, I like your boldness, Pat, but I'm a little concerned about that Norwich move, especially, like you said, going down, a lot of turnover in the roster, I'm sure, but just going down and playing at a lower level before the World Cup. I'd say that gives me a little concern. So I don't know. I'm not too on board with that move. Southampton, I think there's some opportunity there. And it's really tough when you look at the teams in the Premier League. There's a lot of established goalkeepers right now, as number one goalies for their team. It's really tough to find a team that doesn't have a goalkeeper they feel confidently in. So Southampton's one of those teams right now where, it sounds like they have a hole at that position, a need, and Zach could be a perfect player to kind of fit in and, fit in with that style of that team too, right? Like they're pretty, run and gun team, a little bit streaky, right? They're a team that, Ralph Hasenhuttl has them playing a certain way, right? And Zach Steffen, I feel like is somewhat of a streaky goalkeeper. So maybe that kind of
very good comparison.
Fits.
That's a really good correlation there.
What about, I know off camera, Pat, we talked about another team in a different position than Norwich. So do you want to talk about that team as an option?
Are you talking about a Bundesliga team there?
No, I'm talking about Huddersfield.
Oh, that's right. I'm
Team
getting ahead
going
of
up,
myself.
potentially. I guess they're not in
Ahead of
the
myself.
automatic position.
Yeah, I think that's where you kind of swayed me, right? Maybe looking more at a team, obviously not Nottingham Forest, we know what's going on there,
Mhm.
but a team,
Yeah.
right? Like those teams that are kind of 3 or 4 championship that they're pretty locked either for that playoff or set to go up, right? To promotion into the
And I
Premier League.
think right now, who is it? It's Fulham and Bournemouth in the automatic
So
playoff
Nottingham
positions
Forest, I think,
or promotion
third,
positions.
Huddersfield right there. So yeah, Huddersfield Austin, that's an interesting situation because, yeah, again, they're a team, right, that we've seen, pop up and down, but obviously on a better trajectory, right, to be promoted in the Premier League. So if that happens, that would be a great move. And obviously, in terms of the revenue, right, all those different factors, getting in the Premier League, you'll have more funds. But Steffen is kind of in a unique situation, right, where a team like that could come in, really promising, strong, international level goalkeeper, right, that you could bring on, on loan, right, or a fairly cheap, viable option there.
Yeah, and I think again, it all hinges on if they get promoted or not. But it's tough to really find a team that needs a goalkeeper right now. So that's just another option we wanted to throw out there. And then also, obviously, Zach has some experience in the Bundesliga, so again, looking to some teams there. Again, it's a league that's got a lot of good goalkeepers in it right now. Union Berlin is a team that's got an older goalkeeper. Again, you're kind of worried about Man City's wage budget and how much a team is willing to pay Zach Steffen on loan. Mainz is even another team that could use a goalkeeper. After that, though, it's kind of difficult. Freiburg has a goalkeeper that's really stepped up and played well this year. So, they've had a really good year. They're in the Champions League spot right now, and Zach obviously has some experience with them. So maybe that's an option, but
yeah,
I think he really should push for a Premier League move if possible. And yeah, I think Southampton is probably the best place to go right now.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, I mean, you said it a few times, and right, the goalkeeping situation, especially with Premier League clubs. I mean, it is so difficult. Like, there's not many roster spots, right? There's really only one playing, right? It's not like you have the backline defenders or midfielders, right, to rotate formation. I mean, a goalkeeper's the goalkeeper, so it's really tough, right? Especially the battle, in training, right, and just the limited chances that you have, really can be, right. Like you see the Liverpool criticism he's getting, Steffen is. I mean, just a few moments like that, right, and then obviously that can really shoot down your confidence. It's very tough, right? From that mentality, right, to be a top level goalkeeper.
Yeah, I fully agree. So I think with that, we're going to move on to our second player for today, and someone that we're really excited about, and this move, especially this summer. It seems like this is a move that's pretty much assured to happen, right? That's what it seems like, and that would be Brenden Aaronson making the move away from Salzburg. So. Brendan's had a really awesome tenure in Europe so far. He's been here about a year and a half and has won the Austrian League twice, won the Austrian Cup twice for Salzburg. This year, took that next step, I would say, really became a leader for that team, amassed a lot of minutes this year, and all in all had 6 goals, 6 assists in all competitions. So again, some more production from last year. And going to be 22 in this October. So again, I think time is now for him to move on, right? He's been in this team for almost 2 years. We know Salzburg is a team, right, that rotates their youth. It's a team that's looking to sell players on. And I'm just worried, Pat, if he stays here past this summer, stays in Salzburg past this summer, things could get a little stale. And obviously we want players in situations where they're very confident in the team that they're playing for and their role in that team. But again, at the end of the day, when you look at Brendan's career long term, I feel like this summer makes a lot of sense for him to move. And there's a lot of teams that are interested too, right? Right, Pat?
Oh, yeah. There's plenty of teams. And I think I would love to see that Jesse Marsh connection, right? Not to get ahead of you. But yeah, plenty of teams. And Salzburg is just a place that develops such talent. I mean, we've talked about it so much on this show. Obviously a team that's going to dominate in the league, but really, has some impressive performance, right? In cameos in Champions League, Europa League. So that's where the exposure comes. And you're seeing, right, and some of these other talents that they have that Aaronson is playing, with a lot of high quality young talent, that will all go off in different directions with top clubs. So, yeah, it just seems like that would be the concern, right? Getting stale, you are that big fish, right, in a small pond essentially there. And it's really time to take it to the next step and the next level. I don't think, I was saying this off camera to you, that he's in any imminent danger, right? If he makes a huge move and he's not playing 90% of the games, right, starting 90% of the games, that his place at the USMNT is out of question, right? I don't think that's the case at all. Now, obviously, you shouldn't be looking at it that way, but also it's just a perfect time, right? The stars are aligning for a great move, and it just all makes sense.
Yeah, and I think what really allows us to feel that way about him is his mentality, right? He has a really strong mentality. He's someone who really takes pride in grinding day in and day out. He's not someone to make excuses. So, yeah, I think if he goes to a team and isn't that assured starter from day one, then I really just trust him to continue to work hard in training and really put his nose down and finally break into that team. I think that's a really fair point, Pat.
Do you trust the process, Austin?
I trust the process, and I think he would too. So, yeah. So with that said, looking at some teams that fit his playing style, right? He's a really high energy player. He's someone who, is constantly looking to get back and defend. He's constantly looking to high press, win the ball back, and then get down the field when he has it, right? He's someone who likes to attack, be very direct. Obviously, he's not a flashy player, so with him, it's more that quick movement, quick passing in and around the box. And just really trying to get players off balance and take the ball by them, so to speak. So looking at some teams that are good in pressing, good in counterattacking, really make their offense off, those quick plays, right? And that quick turn of possession. One team that really stood out, and obviously it's a team that, he's got a natural connection to now and somewhat, a team that has already been very interested in him from the start is Leeds United. So, want to throw that one out there. But one that was really interesting, and again, it's a team that's kind of deep, so maybe they don't need Brenden Aaronson, but I think he would be a really interesting piece if they do want to look to get another player for their wing position, midfielder position, and that would be Leicester City, right? That's a team that historically likes to play quick. They're a very counterattacking minded team. They've got good talent right now, so he'd be walking into a team with, I think, a lot of good pieces around him that can kind of help him take his game to the next level. And it's a team that's got good aspirations, right? They're a team that's always trying to battle to make it into Europe. So yeah, I think that was another option, Pat, out there.
I like that. I love the Leicester idea. Obviously Leeds, right? Both fantastic clubs and great opportunities. So yeah, I mean, all great things. And like you said, the mentality and wherever he makes that move and goes, he'll be fine. I think that's a player that, isn't short on confidence in terms of his abilities, and everything like that. So he definitely has the tools and tangibles to be successful. So I think Leicester is interesting in terms of the caliber, of the club. It's amazing, again, from the story, winning the Premier League to also sustaining, right? Pretty good success. And that, would really, again, kind of hopefully get him back in the future, exposure to, whether it's, Champions League, Europa League, or the Conference League, right? Some of that exposure that he's had at Salzburg, it's tough, right? Because obviously league-wise, jumping to either of these teams, right? Fantastic Premier League, right? And comparing to the Austrian Bundesliga. But you're kind of missing, right? The exposure of the European competitions, in some respect, right? Not to say Leeds can't ever get there, Austin, but something's magical, right? In terms of having those Champions League or Europa League nights, right? In some of those tournaments.
Yeah. And I think, again, it's just a team that's looking to take that next step. And a team that I feel like has such good talent right now that are really kind of push him forward and really put the onus on him to further develop. One team, and I want to throw this out here and get your thoughts, Pat, that again, barring everything that's going on in the Premier League right now, it's the same caveat that we have with Leeds United, would be Everton, right? A team that has historically had an American on its team, right now has no American. It's a team that's coached by Frank Lampard, right? A coach that likes to use a very pressing or high pressing style of football. And again, a team that really has a lot of needs all over the pitch right now, players really not getting it done. So I don't know if Everton stay up. Do you think Everton would be a good fit for them?
Yeah, see, I can't really say that word because it's like as a Liverpool fan, Voldemort. No, I actually I like Everton. In terms of obviously, like, I don't know what happened this season. It's kind of like the outlier, but they've historically been a pretty solid club, Austin. I mean, and they had the funds, right? And obviously, barring any disaster here, they're going to need some revamp, right? And some just new players, obviously things aren't aligning, right? The chemistry's not there. And if they can survive that, I think that would be a really unique opportunity to, again, say maybe the following season or the season after, right? Lampard has them gelling. That's a team that could easily find themselves back in the top 8.
Yeah, I would say that's a pretty fair argument. It's really sucky, right? Burnley's made this really interesting at the end of the season. I was feeling really confident a week ago with Leeds, and now I'm like, oh boy, Leeds are kind of in trouble. So yeah, I guess we'll see what the end of the season holds. Obviously, if they go down, I don't think this would be a great move at all. But yeah, I really think you got a point, Pat. I think they could be a team with another season to work under Frank Lampard, again, kind of playing that style that he sets them up in, has set up Chelsea in the past. And, even Derby, when we watched them back in the day, following our boy Dwayne Holmes, it's a system that I think Brendan could really thrive in and be successful in. So yeah, if Premier League doesn't work out, obviously, kind of like Zach Steffen, looking at some alternative moves. Again, I think the Bundesliga is another team, another league that fits his playing style. Some teams like Gladbach, Frankfurt, maybe even Hoffenheim could be good fits. Obviously, we're not going to go into too much depth on their situations right now. But yeah, I really think he could go to a mid to high level Bundesliga team and be a contributor right away. So yeah, I think this summer again is time to move for Brendan, and we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited. And kind of shifting gears a little bit, right? A player that is in a pretty good spot, but also needs to make a move in terms of kind of right outgrowing. Really getting comfortable, right, in his role, outgrowing the team, right, to take that jump and to prove himself, right, is Luca De La Torre. So obviously we know what he's done at Heracles the past year and a half there, establishing himself, right, as that center mid, sometimes in that attacking mid type of role, that box-to-box midfielder, drives the balls into the attacking third, very, progressive in terms of his passes. Obviously, heavy with possession, some side to side, things like that, right? But opening up those lanes and locking the, those opportunities for attackers, right, on his team. So he's had an incredible USMNT journey, right? Incredible in terms of obviously what happened at Fulham, right? And just not really, for whatever reason, not cutting the bill there or just something didn't align and really kind of reinvented himself here at Heracles. So, I think it's a unique time for him, a player that's, I would say, if you're thinking at it from a NCAA basketball perspective, right, kind of on the bubble there, but maybe finding himself in a better spot recently, right, with Greg and really seizing the opportunities from the USMNT perspective. But this is a crucial time, for his club career and future with the country. So he just needs to make that right move. I wouldn't say a complete jump up, right, in terms of straight up, but maybe like a more diagonal upward. And really what I mean by that, Austin, is if you're looking at a team staying in the Eredivisie, right, you don't have to go to, top 5 Bundesliga or anything like that, right? But staying in the Eredivisie, he's comfortable in that league. He really knows it. Players, right, and coaches obviously saw the FC Twente manager coming out and saying, how fantastic De La Torre is. So he has that reputation, right? So I'm leaning in on Feyenoord as well as Vitesse. I think both are very unique in terms of having some of the higher market values in the Eredivisie, as well as, with Feyenoord, right? 6 or 7 loan players, attacker and midfielders, right, that are coming to a close there. Mark Dammers there from Hanover on loan is one of them, as well as Gus Thiel expiring contract. In the midfield, there's been a lock starter. Maybe he's leaving it free. We don't know what happens there. So there's a lot of moving parts. It's a really, really strong team, right? I think third right now in the league. They have Cole Bassett, the American as well, Austin. So having some playing time there. But I like what they're doing in terms of their philosophy, the possession, right? Arne Slot plays a very heavy possession style. His philosophy, it has some of the highest creating attacking chances, right? In terms of how he slots his midfielders in there, playing those line-breaking passes, right? Essentially fits De La Torre to a T. And that would be a pretty solid step up, right? I think where he is at Heracles, it's great to solidify that spot. But you look at the quality around, and again, it seems like he's outgrown his spot, and I want to see him at a place like that, or maybe a Vitesse, right? A team that's 4th right now, or 5th, I think, in the Eredivisie, has a lot of players as well on loan that have done very well in terms of some of the maybe Europa or the Conference League, getting in those exposure, and obviously the league there, finishing well. So I think he's really proven himself to be a top 6 or 7, standing Eredivisie player. And he's really outgrown kind of that mid to bottom table in terms of where he is now. So what are your thoughts on Luca De La Torre? Should he stay in the Eredivisie, look to maybe jump there, stay for now, just because he's kind of comfortable, you could say, or is maybe an alternative league better for him?
Yeah, I would really be interested in seeing him, like you said, Pat, in a team that has a lot more possession than Heracles does. They're towards the bottom of the table there in the Eredivisie, and he really prides himself on being, a creator with the ball, but also someone who facilitates play, right, and is really, good with the ball at his feet, right. That's kind of his, what we've come to know him for this year in the Eredivisie.
Dribbling merchant, Austin. Dribbling merchant.
Dribbling merchant. Yes, there you go. You've heard it first here. Yeah, so I really think, a team like you said, a Feyenoord, Vitesse, AZ over there would be also another team, or a host of teams that I feel like would make sense from his perspective. And those teams like to pick up players in the same mold, right? Players who have excelled in their current teams in their Eredivisie and are kind of, cheaper to buy, right? So I think, that makes a lot of sense. If he looks outside, that league, I think, again, if he really wants to try and play in a top 5 league this summer, and again, try and cement his place on our World Cup team and World Cup roster, then I think maybe, and again, this is a little bit out there, but a lower team in Ligue 1 could be a great spot, right? An Angers or, like a Troy, right? That Eric Palmer Brown is currently playing at. Some team there that, again, he can kind of go to, get some playing time in year 1. Maybe they're on the bubble of relegation, but, he's able to prove himself and show people his skills and that he belongs playing there. And, the next 2 to 3 years, maybe move to another mid-table team where he was kind of like at a knot, like Alejandro Bedoya was, a mid-level team there, and get some years playing in Ligue 1. I think that's a league that would fit his skill set pretty well. But again, I really think the Eredivisie move makes the most sense, and it's one that seems attainable, right? I would say it seems very attainable.
I think attainable is great way to describe that, because he's a player, like I said, just in a very it kind of do and die in terms of playing time, being in the right situation, because if he is in the case, right, of Aaronson, right, but if he's in the case of not really playing in an hour or not getting substitute appearances, he could easily, right, kind of sounds a little bit bleak, but kind of fade into the background, right, in terms of the depth that we have, the strengths that we have in those areas. So yeah, I just want to make sure it's the right situation, right, and it doesn't turn into like a Hoppy, right, where he's at, or something like that, or just maybe it's the coaching or anything that just isn't lining up, where the team isn't performing well, he's not in the plans. So again, De La Torre seems to very be strategic, right? Thinks a lot of things out, very again strategic about his moves there. So I think he'll make the best judgment there. But yeah, I think it's time for him to take that jump, right? So you've proven yourself here, kind of comfortable again. It's a small pond, right? He's a big fish in a small pond, like I said before, Aaronson, and now it's ready to take that next jump.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfect segue to move into our fourth player for today, and that would be Eunice Musa. So, Eunice, I feel like, could be a surprise to some people on this list. And again, Valencia is a good level, right? It's a good team. They've got great history. They've got some good players right now, right? They're a team that's got a good amount of money to make moves, and have set themselves up pretty well in the past. But Pat, right now they're really kind of underperforming on the field, right? They've been around that 8 to 12 spot in La Liga for the past 2 to 3 years now. They're not close to Europe this season as well. So, I think when you think about Eunice Musa and his career trajectory, where we want him to be in a few years, I think he's really got to fight to go to a team that will give him the opportunity to play in Europe. That's where the best players or the best young players are playing at. And I think, we've heard reports throughout the season that, teams are very interested in him. Valencia is it's been rumored that they're interested in selling him, even in the winter. It sounds like the summer is obviously a lot more likely. So I think from that viewpoint, there's a lot of sense why a move for Eunice Musa would make sense this summer.
Yeah.
To look at his season so far, he's got 3 goals in 1,600 minutes. He's played mostly, again, on the right wing as a right midfielder for Valencia. Has gotten some minutes inside this year. So, that position we see him play with the USMNT, he's not getting the same amount of playing time there for Valencia. He's 19 going on 20. I think his 20th birthday will actually happen during the World Cup this year. So, we can't wait to celebrate that with him.
Woo.
But, I think this is the time, Pat, for him to kind of, think about what his future career is and where he wants to be. And again, the best players are playing in the best leagues, which he's in right now, but he needs to be playing in the best competition in the world. And that's by far the Champions League, right?
Yeah, that's the caveat. And that's perfect the way you said it. I mean, to see him right on that stage get even more exposure in Champions League, and things like that, right? That's kind of that next step. I mean, you see it, right? How seamless he was in terms of, some would have that pressure, right? Of being so young, jumping to that national team, even CONCACAF, right? Going away to these tough qualifiers, even against, Mexico, right? In the rivalry and things like that. Musa he's not phased by that, right? The mentality, the skill he has, the strength to hold on to the ball in possession, right? And his awareness. I mean, it's such a young age. He's kind of like that hidden gem that once he gets that exposure, like you said, in Champions League, a ton of more clubs are going to be calling for him.
Yeah, and I think at the World Cup, right? Like, we're gonna have all eyes on us,
too, right? That small thing.
Yeah, that small tournament that's gonna happen, and gonna have few million, maybe tens of million eyes on each game. So, I think I that's a great point, Pat. And again, I really just think there's one team that sticks out to me. Again, this might be a pipe dream, but hey, it's our show, right?
Drum roll for you.
Yeah, drum roll. So the team I think Eunice could be great at, I think the move makes a lot of sense for the team as well, would be Atletico Madrid. I really think again, just their style of play really suits Eunice and his skill set, right? He's an all action player. He's someone who is so good on the half turn, never seems to be in trouble, even when he's got defenders, all over him, right? He's so confident with the ball. He's a great, I would say dribbler, right? He's someone who can make those slaloming runs, kind of like Gio Reyna. And again, he's such an enigma in midfield, right? An engine, complete, workhorse, right? He's someone like Brendan Aaronson, like Weston McKennie, who just can run for days and is really good at affecting play in the midfield, can cover a lot of ground. So again, I think if he's played in that center mid position, I think this move to Madrid and Atletico would make a lot of sense. They've got some midfielders on the team right now, but there is one that they're going to be losing this summer, and that would be Hector Herrera, Ache from Mexico. It sounds like he's going to be moving to MLS and potentially the Houston Dynamo. So, again, that's an opening that they need to fill, and maybe Eunice Musa could be that player to fill that position, Pat.
Yeah, and I'm just looking too at Ache and Kondogbia.
Koke.
Yeah, Koke. Yeah, they have some kind of an interesting mix of players there, Austin. And they're not kind of at where they've been, right? In terms of past, it's a high level team. Again, it's not like they're doing terrible, but to the standard that they've been at, right, in the last decade or so, definitely not up to par here, right? So, kind of an interesting time where maybe some fresh faces or a young, promising, player that has proven it, right, in the national team level and even in Spain there, taking a chance on him. So I love that move, Austin. I think Atletico Madrid is a huge step, but a step that he can do, right? I think you said it. He has that workhorse, right? That mentality. But he has that, I don't even know, just like that extra something special, right? That not many players have, that natural talent, right? And that gift. The tangibles that he has in the midfield is just so unique. And you even see him operate in the wing too, but what he does in the midfield is so impressive to even just come into our national team. And he's a player, like I said to you off camera. It's almost like he's been playing a lifetime for us, 100 caps plus. You wouldn't even be able to tell the difference. I mean, he's just that special. He's only going to get better. And going to Atletico Madrid, I mean, that's even somewhere, Austin, he could just essentially stay, right, for a good majority of his career if that does happen.
Yeah. I mean, if everything stays the same like it is or has been for 8 or so years now, that could definitely be a home for him for the long term. And yeah, I think it's such a great point that he looks so comfortable when he's on the field. And I just, my mouth starts to water when you think about him and McKennie. They're so similar in what they do, in my opinion. They're just, they're kind of like ball magnets, right? The ball just kind of glides into them and they can just take it down in any situation, push it out with whatever foot, right? And kind of, really just, they're such all around good football players, right? They are so good offensively, but then they're also covering so much ground defensively. It's really impressive.
They're going to be a menace to play against, man. They're going to be a menace to play against in the World Cup.
Yeah, and throw Tyler Adams right behind him, right? Another player who's got plenty of stamina. It's really exciting. Obviously, we could talk about that forever. We could keep going on and on. One thing, Pat, that makes this move the best move, and again, I think this is the deal cincher, right? He gets to play in red, white, and blue, for club and country.
Dude, where's the mic drop? Where's our graphic designer here? We get that mic drop in. No, that's
all I gotta say.
I love it. I love it. I mean, is there anything else to say? Can we just end on that? No. I know. Also, we have one more player to cover, but that.
And this is an interesting one. This one, I feel like people have kind of forgotten about this player, so we're here to bring it to light. Bring him to light.
Spark, right? Headlines any moment. In terms of just his effort on the pitch and just funny guy, right? He seems like a pretty funny guy, and that's Matthew Hoppy, right? So obviously we saw him, right, in his stints at the Gold Cup, kind of heckling, right, and trolling, players and even Greg at one point. Yeah, just apologize with that T-shirt, which is funny, but yeah, just a player, right? That started out with Schalke, right? Obviously that sinking ship, but performed well enough, and then even with the USMNT and made that move to Mallorca, and it just hasn't panned out. Austin, he's not, for whatever reason. And I've tried digging, right? We both tried digging.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not like it's like the coach has come out and directly said this or that, or I don't know. It's just maybe he prefers the players that he has at his disposal, but clearly that's not working if they're in that relegation zone. So it's a really tough situation for him. It's a club that looks like it's going down, and obviously he hasn't played any part to it. A few substitute appearances, but he's a player that's really, I guess, if you're looking again from that March Madness bubble perspective, on the outside looking in, he needs to go somewhere where he's making an impact immediately. Goals and assists, getting a lot of playing time, because that window is narrowly closing, Austin. We have the Nations League, but what, 8, not even 8, 9 games, right, in terms of friendlies and Nations League before a World Cup, and he's got to make a move.
Yeah, it's just been such a disappointing, year for him. And I thought he played awesome in the Gold Cup. Obviously, it's CONCACAF, and a lot of those teams were not playing their star players, or at least Mexico
Right.
wasn't, right? That was kind of the shtick of that tournament. But I really thought he showed himself in those games. We saw a lot of him with Schalke, last season, and he really rose to the occasion. Obviously, again, that the caveat there was that team was really bad, historically bad. So I was really excited. I was really optimistic to see what he could make of this move to Spain. And yeah, it's been horrible, right? I think he's only played 5 times this year for them. He's been, injured at times as well. So again, that's something to throw out there. But yeah, you said, he's not in the plans for the World Cup right now. I couldn't imagine him being, in that list of maybe 40 or 50 players right now. I think it's pretty unfair to have him there just based on the past season he's had, without really playing much. So yeah, I think in looking at a move for him, and again, thinking about that, what players should move this summer, I think he's one that no matter what happens and where he goes, I think he just needs to get to a spot where he can play games. So that's kind of the lens we viewed this move from.
Yeah, and again, different positions, but I just have these nightmares of Shaq Moore's time in Spain, especially the second and third tiers right there. Dropping down, it's going to be a very difficult situation. He just needs to get out. I know that there's some other European potential opportunities on the table. I was thinking more Austin again. If he's looking more towards short term to try to get on this team, and even maybe looking the long run, right, to 2026. I know some MLS teams have been thrown in there, and obviously Atlanta United is kind of the easier answer, right, in terms of what's been talked about in the media and Twitter, right, with obviously Spectre coming to scout, Atlanta United really looking heavily at him, obviously with Josef Martinez undergoing another procedure on his knee, to I think a short-term solution they have, Cisneros there from Guadalajara on loan, but not in the long run, right? And that's maybe Hoppy can kind of reinvent himself, get more playing time, make a huge impact in MLS to warrant future call-ups. But that's kind of the MLS perspective. I don't know if you had any other thoughts on Atlanta United, or maybe staying in Europe and seeing there's other clubs that he can make an impact on.
Yeah, I think it's tough, right? He's not playing for a team that's really bad in La Liga, and obviously, again, it's a top 5 league, but the fact that he's not even playing for a really, really bad team is not good. And I think you're going to see a lot of, or I don't think you're going to see a lot of high profile teams really take a risk on him. And by high profile, I mean like, the top teams in the Eredivisie or the top teams in Belgium. I really don't think you're going to see a team of the level of like Feyenoord even reach out to him. So I think it's going to be tough. I think he's going to, again, have to go somewhere where it's not maybe the most glamorous option, and he's going to have to prove himself again on the field. I'm looking at teams personally in like the mid-level Eredivisie, or like the mid, Belgian league over there, right? Teams like Kortrijk right now, where Brian Reynolds is at. Some teams like that. Royal Antwerp would be another team, maybe over there in Belgium. And then when you look at the Eredivisie, teams like Heerenveen, right? Some other teams of that stature. Maybe Vitesse would be another one to kind of see if there's any opportunity there. You also have to talk about, some of those other like abstract leagues, right? Obscure leagues. You're talking about Sweden and Malmo, or Denmark and maybe Copenhagen or Brøndby, Midtjylland. Some teams that may have a higher stature and play more possession soccer because of the leagues they play in. But again, not the most glamorous leagues and not the highest of competition to be playing against week in and week out. But that's kind of where he's at right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, and again, I don't want to be bleak, but I think almost in his mind, or not in my mind, he has to kind of look maybe 2026 projection. It's just such a small window he has. Mm-hmm. He has to make a huge impact. It has to happen right in the summer to make the move, or again, by a miracle they survive, being relegated, and then somehow he's into the plans, right? Kind of the savior at the end of the season here. Very, very, very unlikely. But yeah, I think wherever he goes, like you said, Austin, he needs to be playing, instantly, and he needs to have, a coach that trusts him, a good situation to build long term, because he's had some tough situations, right? With Schalke, now this, similar to kind of Sargent, right? In terms of just being on very tough sinking ships, right? To put it bluntly, I mean, it's tough. The locker room, the players not probably trusting each other as much. The coach, right, not going to be like. It's very, like a sinking ship with a revolving door, and it's unfortunate where he's kind of been in two situations now with this.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate all around. I had one random move that may make sense.
Let's hear it.
Yeah, and it's really just thinking of one of our friends, right? Someone we've connected with on Twitter before. Jordan Gardner, right? If you're not familiar, he's got a team. He's the owner of FC Helsingør over in Denmark, and that's a team that's kind of gone down. I think they're as low as the third tier over there in Denmark, but right now it looks like they're going to be promoted next year to the first tier in Denmark. So hey, maybe that's a team that he can help out the American owner there. Obviously, again, somewhat of a out there move. Again, I'm not sure if it would make sense from a financial standpoint, but hey, if he's looking for playing time and again helping a fellow American out and taking a chance on a move that could pay big dividends down the future for both the team and the player. Hey, maybe a random move like that could help out.
Yeah. Hey, you never know. Stranger things have happened.
That's my pitch, Jordan. Now he's got to come to Helsingør.
That's right. That's right. You're looking at the next, like a Copenhagen or that level, right? I think they could do it. I love it. I love the project there, and yeah, Hoppy just needs owner, right, coach, team to believe in him. Where obviously he proved himself at Schalke, but it seems very difficult, at the Mallorca situation, and we only hope for the best for him, moving forward, Austin. But that's really a player, I think, kind of a perfect, last player, right, to cover here, because that's somebody that really needs to move. I mean, I cannot emphasize that enough right now.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think if there's one player on this list that needs somewhere else to go this summer, it'd be Matt Hoppy. So, with that being said, that's all for episode today, guys. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel down below.
Don't forget social media, Instagram, Twitter, putting out great content for you guys. And let us know too. If there are other players that you think, really need to move, or, players that could jump, right? Obviously we're young Americans abroad here, but maybe MLS players making jumps. Love to hear your recommendations there on social media and the comments here on YouTube below.
Yeah. And check out our podcast. We have this episode available in podcast form. So go check that out. And we also have our merch store. So link down below. And yeah, Pat, it's great to do some of these, different episodes. It's always fun to take a look to the future, right? And kind of think about, what moves are possible and what makes sense.
Yeah. And again, guys, if you have any other, ideas or thoughts on other videos you'd love to see, it's fun, like you said, Austin, to do these kind of unique videos. Obviously, we had the weekly reports, but there's just a lot going on, in terms of the seasons wrapping up, the U20s, right, the Nations League, obviously the World Cup coming on soon, right, in the winter. There's just so much content from a U.S. perspective to cover, and we're here to provide it to you.
Yeah, I couldn't say it better myself. So with that being said, Pat, I think there's one more thing to say, and that is one day we will win the World Cup.